So take two. So let's wait for everyone to get on, wait for Paul to come on. We'll see. I wonder if there's any background noise on my end. I see some people coming back on. They found the live. If it's just me, is my audio okay? Was it coming from my end? I just want to know where it's coming from because I didn't hear any background, so I'm wondering if it was something on my end. So if anybody can give me any feedback on this sound, and then I'll wait for Paul to come back and join us. Okay. Thanks, guys, for coming back on. So if you kind of missed what Paul was starting, okay, this sound is okay? Okay, good. So Paul was kind of introducing his background. He was a certified kinesiologist, and then what he's been working on lately has been helping people heal from cancer. So he's been working on that for the past 7 years. He's wrote a book on it, and that's what his whole practice, the Wheel of Life, focuses on, is how to heal and eliminate cancer. Wrote a book on it, and it's like incredibly fascinating. So he went back, and what I wanted him to get into is he is a Czech practitioner, and I really want him to explain exactly what that is. So hopefully, kind of new at this. I've been on other people's lives, but I haven't done one, and I know Paul, I don't think has done one either, so let's see if I can send him a request. Yeah, so that's what his main focus on, and I think if I'm not sure if you heard him, so he's really passionate about getting to the root cause of like dis-ease and actually figuring out like what is at the root and what is causing, you know, illness or cancer and all these things. Instead of, you know, just applying a Band-Aid effect, it's like actually getting to the cause, which is what I stand up for a lot too, because a lot of times even what we're seeing in this, you know, pandemic is just all Band-Aid effects. Everything we're doing, none of it is solution oriented. None of it is like preventative. We're not getting to the root cause of what actually is happening. And everything throughout the last, I don't know, I'm going to say like 100 years, because if you listen to what I talk about with like germ theory and everything else, the last 100 years we've been just putting Band-Aids on, you know, petrochemicals and all this stuff. Oh, there he is. Okay. So, okay, Paul, I see you there. Send another request that I can accept, and then we'll go from there. So yeah, so that's what Paul is incredibly passionate about, is actually getting to the root cause and actually helping people heal. And that's what he does. He actually does help and makes a difference. So Paul, I did see you on there. I wonder if I can press something or see if I do this. Can I send it if this way? Thanks guys for your patience. Stay tuned. There's going to be a ton of information coming. Oh, saw it come through. Where'd it go? There. See if that helps. We'll go from there. Plant-based diet. Dr. Gundry. Nah, I have mixed feelings about Dr. Gundry, but he has a lot of good information out there as well. Okay. Waiting on request. And we will see. And yeah, so Paul came and spoke at our Freedom Rally event. And it was really awesome because he mentioned how most people are on an average of 6 medications on average, you know, some are on even more. And he laid out like all the side effects of all these medications, and all the common side effects are what, you know, a lot of people are experiencing with, you know, the Rona. So it is kind of interesting anyways to look at the root cause. Oh, can you cancel request and resend? Yes, I can. Let's try this again. Thanks, everyone. Okay, I am resending, send request, try it again. Oh, him. Yes, I remember his talk. Yeah, it was fantastic. And he had great signs around with a ton of information on. And unfortunately, I had to cut him off because we were on like a bit of a time restraint. So I thought this way, now I don't have to worry about cutting him off. He can get his all his information out. Okay, sent it again. Thanks everyone for joining and being patient while we work this out. And if you come in and out of this talk, it will be posted, so you'll be able to like watch it again. Did the WHO just announce it's not beneficial for healthy people to wear? Probably the WHO did that. They keep going back and everything. The WHO just announced that the PCR cycle rates are too high and causing false positives. So, I mean, they're going back on everything that they've said. I mean, Bonnie Henry just today, I just posted it to my Instagram stories. She literally just said, so Bonnie Henry is the Chief Medical Officer out in BC, and she literally just said that nothing that they're doing is based on science. Like right out of the expert's mouth, nothing they're doing is based on science. Request, I see it. Send request again. Sorry, Paul, I don't know. Oh, there, we got it. Okay, got it.
Oh, wow.
I don't know.
Okay. So sorry.
It's okay, it's all good.
Did this fix the problem? Hopefully it
That's a
did.
lot better.
Yeah, is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
fantastic.
Okay, so I kind of recap for people. You're a certified kinesiologist. For the last 7 years, your focus has been healing people with cancer and actually getting to the root cause of dis-ease and actually helping people. You wrote a book. You started your practice at Wheel of Life. You can kind of put in whatever I missed there when I was recapping for people. But what I wanted you to touch on is what is check practice? Because I don't think a lot of people even know what that is.
Okay, well, it's really important distinguishment. There's one thing you said there that I appreciate you saying, but I want to help point something out, is that I don't heal people, so I show them how to heal themselves.
Yes, thank
And
you.
it's a minor thing. I know you understand that, but
Yeah.
that's so what a Czech practitioner is. So the Czech part of my training is about learning, becoming aware of what it means to be a human being. Like what it means to love ourselves, how to actually look after ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's about independence. So what are our needs? And when we actually know what they are and then fulfill them, we are actually healthy.
Mm-hmm. It's
and
as
and
simple as that, right?
right now, the real problem, so essentially what healing boils down to is shedding all of the illusions that society has somehow come to the point where we're drowning in illusions, we're drowning in fear. And over the years, the amount of dependency that is kind of engineered by our politicians and the head honchos of the medical system and the pharmaceutical industry, and now the social media platform owners, they're engineering dependency. That's how they become rich. So really, at the deepest level, in my opinion, the pandemic is not even about health. It's not even about a virus. it's
Yeah.
it's actually about increasing power, influence, and profit for a relatively small handful of people that are in positions of powerful influence, because they have a lot of money, so they can get politicians to read scripts, and they can get the media. A lot of them just own the media. Some of these technocrats that are billionaires, they just outright own media channels. And if you pay attention, a lot of the news anchors, they're just reading scripts. They just go to work, they say, what am I supposed to say today? And then they read that.
And we caught that. They actually caught that on one of our Ontario medical officers. They actually off
Right.
camera said like, "Oh, I don't even know why I bring this. Like, I just read what they tell me." Like that.
Whatever they tell me.
Yeah.
So we have apparent health officials or health authorities reading scripts. These are people that don't actually understand health principles. And so, it becomes obvious if you really look at even the overall strategy, which you were pointing out earlier a few minutes ago. The whole approach to this pandemic, like if we really were in a health crisis and we really had a government that cared about solving this problem, we would create some kind of a health revolution where instead of being in a big, huge fear state and panic altogether, they say we're in this together. They want you to be in this pandemic, that's for sure. They want you to be very much involved in participating, because that's the only way it'll continue, is if we just continue to participate in fear and dependency. So they're basically forcing us to hand our health over to them, for them to take responsibility for our health. And they're using fear to accomplish that, and misguidance. So really, there's not a single health principle focused on. What makes our health status rise? That's really the solution. If there was a health crisis, is to increase our health status. But if we actually did that, threw away these concepts where if you sanitize your hands, you're somehow going to avoid disease. if you wear a mask, you're going to avoid disease. Like nothing matters except COVID. You know, and then the illusion that if you get injected with a certain substance, that will somehow make you healthy too. And all of this stuff is dependency. It's all laced with dependency and fear. Like, let us look after you, be afraid, do all these, you know, these useless protocols in the meantime while we figure out how we're going to actually save you. And while this is all being done, what's really happening is laws are being passed that have to do with positioning key people in higher levels of power and influence. Money is being taken, just outright taken from small businesses. Businesses are, you know, you can't go spend your money at certain businesses, but you can spend it at the bigger ones who have positions of power and influence already. So it's just money being swapped around. So we've got billionaires becoming trillionaires. That's what it's all about. And if people don't face their fears and take responsibility for themselves and start being willing to take risks, you know, like a lot of people are in positions of, in tough positions, like police officers. Police officers, you know, I've even seen stories now of some police officers just committing suicide. And, you know, doctors have been committing suicide before the pandemic even began. One doctor a day commits suicide in the US because what's happening is people are starting to realize that none of this makes any sense. This doesn't sit well with my instincts, with my heart. This is, you know, just wrong. I just know it and I feel it. And then what do? They get into a crisis. What do? And that's where, you know, it's tough. But to just, you have to kind of decide, what are you going to stand for? Are you going to hold on to your paycheck, your guaranteed paycheck, and continue to follow the rules that your superior is enforcing, even though it goes against your intuition and all your better judgments and everything? Or are you going to go into the unknown and start standing up for what's right in your heart? And that's just a decision that people have to make for themselves. Like, you can't force anyone. But rest assured, they've been just taking us deeper and deeper and deeper into this pandemic that's engineered, and it's not going to stop unless we have enough people standing up. And literally everyone counts, because, you know, even though it's a small handful of people, you know, each country is pyramid shaped. We've got, you know, a handful of people that we see on the media each day that apparently make these decisions, and really they're just puppets on strings. And, you know, people behind the scenes that we don't ever get to see are writing the scripts, and they've made the plan, and they're carrying out all these, you know, ridiculous, insane protocols, and, you know, causing suicides, causing depression, causing addiction, causing broken relationships, causing the loss of businesses and life savings, and increasing stress, which just leads to more and more and more disease across the board. So we're apparently solving, you know, a flu by increasing cancer, diabetes, stroke, and everything, just all across the board. You know, where I still haven't worn a mask today, ever. And the reason I don't wear it is not because I have a medical exemption. The reason I don't wear it is because I'm looking after myself. You know, when you wear a mask, you breathe in your own your exhaled CO2. And there's been all kinds of videos of various health professionals showing with instruments that when you breathe in a mask, you start breathing CO2, and it goes from like 600 parts per million to 9,000 parts per million in just a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
And so it's, you know, and what this does is it causes your blood to become acidic. And when your blood's acidic, now you're harming every cell in your whole body, because every cell in your body is connected to your bloodstream. We're not supposed to have acidic blood, you know. So the main message one of the main messages that I want to get across is, this isn't even about health anymore. They just want people to argue over, is a mask healthy or is it not? And, you know, they want people to get caught up in this whole drama, and they want to create sides, you know, and the truth isn't about one side or not. It's just simply the truth. And so people, it's hard to get to the truth sometimes, but you'll notice the people that are speaking the truth generally aren't violent. They're not in fear, and for the most part, they're healthy and happy. And but they're not experts, right? They're not the health experts. They're not the ones that the big media channels give attention to and put the spotlight on.
Mm-hmm.
So people need to learn about real health principles, and people need to learn about what propaganda is, what real propaganda is, because this is the most significant example of propaganda and mind control and leading the nation to believe and think things and make choices I've ever seen. It seems like it could be the greatest example of that in history. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's worldwide.
Yeah, and it's crazy because, like, read history books, and I always thought, like, how could, like, people get involved in, like, I used the example of Cambodia because I went to Cambodia and I, like, saw the history of the Khmer Rouge and what they did, and a lot of people don't even realize that, like, that happened in the 70s, and people were still on trial for that in 2014. I mean, these acts of genocide and these events, like, are very relevant. So, I mean, if people don't know about Khmer Rouge, I invite you to look at First They Killed My Father and kind of read about that history, because that was kind of like recent-ish. And then, the Holocaust and everything. And I think, like, how could that even happen? Like, how could people do that? And now, like, living this time, I'm like, it's actually so easy. Like, I'm just, right? Because you and I, like, and everyone kind of standing on this side, and we're just watching. We're like, how is this happening? Like, how are people, like, buying into this? But it happens instantly. It's like, okay, masks went from healthy people don't wear a mask to wear a mask, and everyone right away, put it on. And then it's like, okay, actually stop wearing a mask, and people would stop. Like, it's actually fascinating how quickly people will, like, buy into what they're being told without realizing it. And they think that they're critically thinking. They think that they're thinking for themselves, but we see it happening but you're not. Like,
right. Yeah, and I think that's one of the challenges of personal growth or spiritual growth, like whatever you want to call it, taking responsibility for oneself and evolving oneself, is that the challenges of independent thinking.
Yeah.
And we've got some major, my dream is for this pandemic to result in the end, through all the challenges with it, in such a massive awakening of society across the world that we actually restructure and reshape societies and the values of humanity, so that we actually create a healthy and happy world. Because I don't want to go back to how it was.
No, definitely.
And how it was is that we have the rate of cancer is 1 in 2 people.
Yeah.
And we've got the medical system now 100 years in telling we're almost there. We've almost got the cure for cancer. Just a few $1 billion more, and we'll have the cure. Decade after decade, and statistically, 50% of people that develop cancer, and this is 1 in every 2 people develop cancer, 50% die within 5 years doing treatments. Yeah. So and just the word treatment is concerning. Yes. And this is where propaganda comes in, and the use of language, and all this constant messaging from authorities. A treatment is not usually something that damages the body, causes a person to bleed, lose their health status, sometimes die, and none of this stuff addresses the root cause, and that's the real concern. So I think one of the problems with independent thinking is it's actually scary. A lot of people, if you start thinking for yourself, our school system, a big part of our school system creates this passive thought process. You go to school and you don't learn how to think. You just learn what to think. And that's a comment I heard from a great guy, Paul Chek, who's got a lot of knowledge. He's the founder of the Chek Institute. That's one of the things he shares. The school system, unfortunately, does not teach you how to think. So you go there and you're told, and with the threat of punishment, to receive information and then reproduce the information, and at the end of the year you get tested on it, and if you're kind of like a computer where the input and the output matches, then you get a high grade. And after 15 years of that, then you're entered into society, and the new authority that feeds you information is the news. And the news, if the news can sway a nation into any particular direction, it means millions or billions of dollars for somebody. And that's what the news has become. The news is not news. The news is a source of belief systems. So independent thinking, waking up, like in this is an opportunity for people to just dive into the unknown, to take risks actually, and to start living a meaningful life. Get out of the system. Don't be another brick in the wall. Find purpose and meaning. And it's not easy to do that, but that's what soul work is. It's not supposed to be easy. That's something that's so valuable that you really have to earn that one. and once you get it, you've got it for life. And I think you're a perfect example of that, Kristen, because you were a nurse and you had the security of your job, and you don't have to worry about where money's going to come from the next week. And then you started to realize, and you knew that what was going on was wrong, and you took a stand even if it meant losing your job. I think that's true, right? I don't want to.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now you're probably living a life of more meaning, and you're really helping people, like in a much deeper way maybe than you ever have. And this opens up the door for creating new ways of making money for yourself and new ways of nourishing your soul and living a purposeful life. So
I think you kind of nailed it on a few things, going back to what you even started saying at the beginning, because it's even in some of my speeches I've talked about as well, as how like we've been conditioned from basically in the womb, right? Like mothers, carrying fetuses, carrying their babies, are taught then not to trust their bodies, are taught then to like look for someone else to tell them, is their baby healthy? Is your body healthy? Like we have been conditioned all the way through to not trust. And then your baby is born, you have to go to well baby visits, you have to do all this stuff, and you're asking someone else, like, is my baby okay? Is this okay? Like from the minute we were born, we have given up responsibility of our lives. We have given up like our empowerment, our sovereignty. We've given everything up, and we've been conditioned that our bodies are weak, our bodies are not good enough, we're not capable of like doing things on our own, we're not capable of like healing or taking care of ourselves. Like we're literally told everything, every decision, everything about us has to be in the hands of someone else. And even then, it's a blanket statement. Like they're not even looking at like the individual or your uniqueness or your past. It's like, okay, well, and then I think it's so important to look at, they place us in victim mode right from birth. We've been in victim mode right from birth. And when you finally come back and you become empowered and you are no longer a victim, and like you said, people that have done that, have become empowered and are no longer a victim, taken back their lives and responsibility, are happier, are healthier, are all these things. And then, but people, it scares people, like to see someone with that, I don't know, that confidence or that light or something, because I think, we know like it causes them to reflect and have to look in the mirror at themselves, right? Like, and it's a lot, like you had mentioned too, that inner work, it's scary and terrifying. Seeing someone like that ends up, you can't, whether you want to do it or not, you end up putting responsibility on a person, right? They realize what's possible, they see what can be accomplished, and then the reality is still there that it won't happen until a person just decides, until they actually go for it, face their fears, and start going through a change process, letting go of whatever it is that anchors them into the reality that they're in. It can be seriously scary. It really can. But until it's done, you're not really truly a spiritual adult. You're just not. You haven't come into adulthood yet. Instead, you're still in this passive mode where the government is your parent and the media is your parent, and the cure is the thing that's going to save you. And it just doesn't work like that. It's the thing that you need is to be a whole human being. You have to have your needs fulfilled. And so real health principles, which we're not seeing, are things like sleeping properly, most of the time. And none of this has to be perfect, but sleeping, from 10 p.m. onwards. Well, that's huge. If you just miss 2 nights of sleep, you're going to end up, you increase the chances of getting sick. And so life doesn't go perfectly, but this is like knowledge that's essential, and a spiritual adult makes a commitment to actually sleeping well. It sounds like such a small thing. And
that's just a physical example. Another physical example is drinking water. How many corporations out there want you to drink something different than just clean water? Every time we spend money on something like, say, Coca-Cola or Pepsi, what we're doing is making someone rich that does not care if you develop diabetes. And so much of society has been lured into doing this because of instant gratification and addictions. A lot of this stuff is addictive. It's difficult to stop drinking or stop eating fast food. There's addictive chemicals put in there. And so, but the more we do it, the more people that actually don't care if you develop a disease and die get rich.
Yeah.
So that's literally why we're in this problem, in my opinion. We have made people rich because we've not been truly living. And so we would have much less need, just to tie this together. There's a lot, desires for things like fast food and desires for things that ultimately just harm us. They tend to fade away when you really start pursuing your dreams. It's like a lot of that stuff is just needed to give you a sense of, joy finally, or happiness or relief, because the things that matter in life more aren't being fulfilled. So this is a chance in the pandemic to really start rebirthing ourselves, to go into what I call the second birth. This is where you become a conscious being. You wake up. You wake up and you start living for humanity, not just for yourself. You start becoming a steward to humanity. And I can trust me, the people running the pandemic and orchestrating it all and wanting it to continue, they don't care about humanity. They really don't care about humanity. They don't care about equality. They don't want the nation to be actually healthy or free, because then their profits go down to zero. So all of their power just disappears when people say no, because we're giving them the power. We're giving them the freedom, our freedom. So, to make a change, we got to do it together. And that's the challenge. Like, how many people do we have to wake up before we get this to end?
Yeah, and that's the question. Like, how many people do we have to get to wake up, and how do we make this end? I know that was a question earlier on. It's like, okay, people kind of know the information, they know what to do, but how do we end this? How do we get out of this?
Yeah, well, one answer I'd like to give to that is to actually use your capacity as a human being, which is, we have a lot of power to dream, like to set goals, to put things into tension, to focus our energy on what we want. So if you're focusing your energy unconsciously into something, then you're probably focusing all your life force and your energy into, like, the pandemic, for example. Because that's why the media wants to get into your mind. That's why advertisers want to get into your mind, because they want you to put your time and your energy into the story or the things that's going to make them profits and give them their power. So part of the solution is to get out of your head, turn the news off, and start going for walks in nature. Start spending some time nurturing yourself. Have a bath, listen to some beautiful music without words, get out of your head, and start listening to your soul. Have a relationship with your actual soul. It's amazing, but that's where all creativity comes from. That's where everything that's new and novel comes from. It comes from this mysterious, unknown place. And, this is the thing that's scary for people. Like, how could you come up with your own solution? Where's that going to come from? I need to be told what that would be. Someone has to tell me for sure, because that's what the school system does. But in reality, answers come when you ask yourself, what could I do actually to help today? What would I want the future to actually look like? And then if you take the time to do that, answers just appear like out of nowhere. And they're the ones that actually work, and they usually work for us all. Like, everyone knows if they're making a choice that's actually just selfish and really is going to make them benefit in some way but take from others. Everyone knows that. So it's really about, what are you going to choose, So unfortunately, we're in this situation because people aren't using that ability. very wisely.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. You mentioned before several times too about just even that spiritual connection. And I've been talking about this a lot more too. I've been on my own like spiritual journey and what that means. And I finally found something that works for me. But I think when people actually do explore that and get that connection back and find something in their soul and find that spiritual connection, whatever that may be, you feel just more fulfilled and centered and grounded and have this faith and hope, and you don't need the worldly things to fill all these voids and these emptiness, right? Like in the worldly things you had mentioned, whether it's drinking or the fast food, or I don't know what someone was talking about at church last weekend, addicted to porn, whatever it may be for you, right? Like all these worldly things that keep you kind of in this low vibration space where, you feel kind of empty and lost. But once you kind of start connecting to a more spiritual and more divine place, like you realize you don't need those things because you're not attached to like these worldly things to fulfill you. Like you just find your purpose, your meaning, and you're fulfilled, right? Like, and even just even for me on my own spiritual journey, but like you said, at work, like it was just so hard going into a place where ethically it killed me every time just to see the harm that was being done to these babies and what we were doing, and just knowing it was wrong. And yeah, I had the paycheck and everything else, but like to my core, like it just, if you're in a place like that, it just will slowly eat away at you. And then once that's kind of gone and it's freeing, now it's like, you're right. Like now, you find your purpose, you find your meaning, and you are more fulfilled. Just kind of speaking to anyone else watching too, like it's scary. Like you said, once you move past that fear, then there's so much more on the other side, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you really start living then.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like what you do, like even from the short time that I've known you, just even your presence that you carry about yourself, like, like you're fully in your purpose, in your mission, and just like the epitome of like health and what all that means. And that's why I really wanted to get you on here so badly, just to get people to like listen to you and just see like the difference, right? Like these are the experts people should be listening to. I mentioned right before you got on that Bonnie Henry in BC outright just said that everything they're doing is not based on science. So like, I love that she came out and said it. And so I mean, like Paul People is one of the guys you need to be listening to. And I think when he spoke at the rally, I had to cut his talk a little short. And where he was, where I cut him off, he was actually starting to talk about, I think, health tips. So I don't know if that's a place where you kind of want to jump in if people are curious about just some health advice, or one of the things I really wanted you to talk about, sorry, there's a lot, so you choose, is the virus, what a virus is, and a virome, and like what all that means. You had an amazing post about that like months ago. Just even, how family members think that they've all been, like, I think we're on the same path or train of thought with contagion. So that's a big one, but I don't know. I'm curious. Where do you want to go with?
Sure. Yeah, I love the questions, and all of this is all just so valuable to me. So we could just keep talking forever, and I would be happy.
Yeah, me too.
So, yeah, and that's a really important one. Well, first of all, my entire life, I don't even have a family doctor. For 35 years, I've not seen a doctor. I haven't taken a pharmaceutical drug, and I certainly have never taken a vaccine. And what I noticed growing up is that a lot of my friends were taking the vaccine to not get the flu, and then they would get the flu. and I wasn't getting the flu. And one of the dangers today is science, and it's not real science. It's just the science that's bought and paid for. It really does not take a lot today to potentially present only certain aspects of research to get people to value a certain thing. So getting healthy really has to do with kind of searching for the truth, and that means being willing to not just trust what the science is saying. It's a lot of it's about life experience. So a lot of the so-called healers on the planet are people that have kind of stopped believing in all the things that don't work and just went into the unknown to learn. And so you learn about these things by reading books oftentimes, and you learn about them by doing a course that's not part of the mainstream school system, and you learn about it by listening to people who've gone on some kind of a journey of learning the truth, waking up and having a life change. And this is how we can all help each other, sharing how did we get out of the system and wake up and actually become free of disease and happy, living a meaningful life. So a good book on the terrain theory is The Contagion Myth.
Yes.
By Robert Cowan,
Thomas Cowan.
or Dr. Thomas Cowan. Sorry.
Thomas
Yeah.
Cowan. Mm-hmm.
And so I can share an example there. What's really going on is that when a person gets sick, there's nothing wrong with them. and it might sound like, well, how does that make sense? And what I mean is, there's nothing wrong with your body ever. Your body's always responding to effects. So if you, for example, if you were to drink too much alcohol, like a simple example, if you drink a whole bunch of alcohol, your body's going to be in full control and understand, okay, whoa, this is poisonous to the system. It's interfering with a whole bunch of different processes. We can't live like this. Whatever this fluid is that has come in has got to get out of the system, or else we can't see or we can't walk straight, and this is a threat to our survival. So what the body does is it starts activating all sorts of survival mechanisms. One, for example, would be to throw up. So so it's ejecting out poison. And so, is there something wrong with the body? There's not anything actually wrong. It's working perfectly. It needs to do that. So what we need to do is support the body always and trust. So fulfill its needs. So what do we actually need? Water. Okay, so drink some water then. If you feel like, and then listen to the body. If the body's saying go lay down, go lay down. But there's nothing wrong. And getting labeled with something is really dangerous. Like, you have this disease. Well, now you're screwed. When really you don't have a disease, your body is in some kind of survival response. So what you'll see is what they've been doing with the virus theory is for a long time, before we were even born, they've been using the fear of this invisible enemy that's out to try to get us to make us make certain decisions and mislead us away from independence. So, for example, in Thomas Cowan's book, so what we're actually doing is cleansing. Most of the time, we're actually just cleansing. So you can test it out if you want. You can just go grab a bunch of fast food meals, eat like 6 of them in a row for 2 days. Just eat fast food and stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning, and don't drink any water. And by the 3rd day, you'll have a cough, and you'll have a runny nose, and you'll have a banging headache, and you'll have all the symptoms of what they call the flu. And they'll say, well, what happened to you is you got a virus. And so, in reality, we're not under attack from, we don't have to be in this war on cancer and this war on disease. And that's what they want, is for everyone to be in fear and trying to attack and destroy the enemy. And it's like kind of misleading people away from the real enemy, which is the person telling you that. That's the real enemy. And what we really need to do is forget about trying to destroy disease and attack viruses and evade viruses and run from viruses and sacrifice everything to get away from all of this, and actually start looking after ourselves. And that's it. That's it. And when you learn how to look after yourself, all of this stuff goes away. Like I said, I haven't been sick. I can't even remember the last time I was sick. I just don't get sick. And it's not because I'm not running into a virus, and it's not because I'm an asymptomatic person. That's what they've kind of they're trying to eliminate the concept of just actually being a healthy person. We're no longer a healthy person, we're just an asymptomatic person. So it's like you're trying to pull me into the pandemic too, I see. Like, no, I'm not going to participate in that. So the reality is, I don't need to go into a healing crisis. I don't need to cleanse my body. I don't need a runny nose to flush out poisons. When you go into a superstore, there's not a lot of food in there. Like any ingredients you read that have ingredients lists that say natural flavors, That's not natural flavors. That's mind control again. That's a cover up, just another cover up for chemicals that will somehow stress your body. So I read in Thomas Cowan's book that a lot of the reasons that people get sick at certain times of the year has to do with many different factors that that were never taught. And one, for example, in the fall or the winter is dry air. So a lot of people start heating their home with fireplaces or with forced air and or electric heaters. And when the air gets really dry and you breathe that in all 24 hours a day, especially if you're cooped up in a home, which is what they want all of us to do, don't start being afraid of outside. Another thing we need is like the environment and fresh air and freedom. These are needs that actually cause us to be healthy. So they want to take that away. But so if you're breathing in this low moisture air, the dry air, our cells are made of water. Like our body's very much made of water, and our lung tissue is really sensitive. So when you breathe dry air in over and over and over again, that's not really a natural thing. That just happens inside of a home. And so it dries out cells in your lungs, and then it can damage your cells. And then what you end up having is dead material in your lungs, because our cells are made of proteins and, like fatty acids. They're constructed of tissue, and when they die, they have to be cleansed out. So then you end up getting a cough, and you end up getting phlegm in your throat, and you need to eject that stuff out. So now you're blowing your nose, you're coughing, and you're actually cleansing. So now the medical community and all the research that's been, billions of research that's been put into the virus theory for decades, wants everyone to think, no, you're not cleansing your lungs. Don't think about the root cause. Don't think that there's actually something related to that other than this invisible enemy that we've created and want you to focus on. So what's beautiful is the truth is so wonderful, because if you're willing to search for it and test it out, you can see it actually works and it's real. That's why the truth, all the lies existing in the pandemic, they have to keep censoring everybody over and over and over again, because once someone knows the truth, it's permanent. But when you're fed a lie, it's temporary. So they need to keep the lie alive as long as possible and censor all the truth to keep that lie going. So recently I moved to a different location for a while because we're moving, and we ended up sleeping in front of a fireplace, in front of a log fireplace. We're laying, which is nice, but we're laying right on the floor, my partner Ari and I, in front of the fireplace, night after night after night. And I was noticing I was getting a little bit of an irritation in my lungs. And Aria actually did develop a full-blown irritation in her lungs, and she started coughing. And this took about 4 days or something. And she actually started to blow her nose and cough up phlegm. And we're like, wow, this is so amazing. It's just exactly what's explained in the terrain theory. Here's another real cause of the body needing to cleanse. And so, a lot of people today, though, because they're being fed so much propaganda and fear, they probably would have ran to go get a COVID test thinking, oh my God, I have the virus. The virus has found me. I washed everything. I followed all the rules, and it still got me somehow. And now I'm going to die, and now, or whatever. Like fear is real, when even if it's an illusion, even if it's not true, the experience of fear can be very intense. That's why it's so powerful. It's a foundation of mind control. So
and we know fear causes illness, right? And that's what they're doing too. Fear also causes illness.
Exactly. Yeah. Just sitting inside your home watching the news day after day and actually worrying and having fear, your health status will just go down, down, down. And then sooner or later, oh my God, your body has to go into a cleansing and a healing crisis, because your needs haven't been met and you've been under a stress response chronically, and now you actually are sick. So they've got you right where they want you, sick.
And that's what they're doing, right? That's what I keep trying to tell people. If they really cared about our health, we wouldn't be, the LCBOs and fast food restaurants wouldn't be deemed essential, and gyms and all these health promoting things wouldn't be closed, right? And everything that they're doing to us is to cause illness and sickness. Nothing about it is actually to improve our health. The government has never cared about our health. And I think it's interesting to go back, because we've been, and you've mentioned this a few times, but just to kind of make it clear for those listening, we've been on the wrong side for the last 100 years, over 100 years. Like this goes back, and you've kind of mentioned, and I see comments coming in. So germ theory versus terrain. Germ theory was founded by Louis Pasteur back like early 1900s. And he tried so hard to prove that bacteria and germs and viruses were the cause of disease. And he could never prove it. Instead, he faked. He faked all his tests and experiments to make it look like he did, but he was always taking accurate notes in his journals and everything. But he made people believe that, you know, germs and all these things were the cause. And so it got picked up by, you know, like, let's just say Rockefellers over 100 years ago to push petrochemicals and push this idea of like, you know, now we can make money and push these drugs, and anything alternative, anything healthy, anything, whatever healing is going to be deemed quackery and, you know, and wrong and false. And they've had that conditioned into us like for over 100 years, right? And that's what we're even seeing now. Like, only medicine can be taught if you go to this medical institution. Only if you can go here is how you can practice medicine, right? Everything else has been ignored. Yeah. But if you look at the other guy, Antoine Béchamp, he was the founder of terrain, and that's where everything lies in terrain. We should never be suppressing our symptoms. We should be supporting them always. And I know I get in a lot of flack. Sorry, now I'm on a ramble. I get in a lot of slack for my boys. They never get sick. My boys are never sick. Just like you mentioned, you're never sick. My husband and I were never sick. And, you know, but kids do have to go through certain illnesses and sickness to build their immune system so they can be ready for what, you know, as they grow up and get older. It's phases of life that they need to go through. And a couple times they've had their fevers. And I don't give them Tylenol or ibuprofen. I let their body do a job, because the fever is like one of the best things to actually heal and help the body like get, you know, detox and do its job. So if you stop a fever from working, then your body can't actually, you know, go through the process of getting rid of whatever it needs to do to burn it up. And Tylenol depletes glutathione, it's hard on the liver, all this stuff, whatever. But I can't believe how many people thought I was like torturing my boys, or that I was doing harm to them because I would let their fever run its course. And instead we drank fluids, we cuddled, low stimulation, right? And we just took the time, and we were like sick together, like, right? Like we just laid low and just kind of nurtured our bodies, let our bodies do its job. And then, you know, a couple days or next day, they're over it, back to themselves, and never sick again. It's actually amazing when you let the body do its job, like what happens.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. It's like society. They don't want society to be strong. You know, they don't seem to want people to actually have courage or any kind of spiritual strength. So, you know, if you take someone's suffering away, if you take someone's challenges away, how are they supposed to actually grow and become an adult? You know, and develop confidence, you know? Well, they're going to just be left in a fear state, more and more of a fear state, more dependency. So it's beautiful that you're doing that. That's exactly how I would parent myself. I would tell my kids, your body's learning how to, you know, your body's getting stronger, you'll be fine. And, you know, just look after yourself and trust your body. It's just working out what it has to work out. Mm-hmm. And then they learn that, and then, you know, like they really grow then.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's beautiful. And like my boys, like they have no fear. Like it's like my son's 5, and it's, you know, he hears something come on the radio and he knows, he's like, that's nonsense, right, mama? Like, because he knows like he has nothing to be afraid of. Like he knows he's not sick. He knows people aren't sick. He knows that, you know, there's nothing to fear. Like we are going to go and live our lives, and you know, we live a lot outside, and, you know, our trailers in the summer, and that it's definitely what's missing. There's just, like you keep saying, there's just so much fear and dependency, and it's crazy how threatening that is to people when people see someone who's not in fear and someone who is independent. And it's amazing to me that is a threat to someone else's life. Yeah. Like seen as a threat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's really truly a threat, because it means that they probably have to change.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yes.
And how things are at that time for them is in some way, you know, giving them a sense of security. Mm-hmm. So it can be painful. It can be emotionally hard to go through a transformation process where you shed your beliefs and you go into a new a new world, like a new unknown.
It's heavy, and I think that's a lot for people to do, right? To unlearn and relearn. Mm-hmm.
So it's much easier. It's way easier just to say you're wrong.
Yeah.
Just to say that, no, you're wrong, and I'm going to hold on to this reality. Yeah. But, you know, I wanted to say there's only, from all of my life experience and what I've gone through, as far as I know, there's only one way to actually get rid of fear or to dissolve fear, and it's just to face it, actually. Just to face it. And that's why I've said to risk things. So you had to face fears related to your profession.
Yeah.
You know, am I just going to start telling the truth, my truth? Am I going to start speaking truth? And what's going to happen? Like tons of fear. I would assume you had some fears. You know, like, am I going to lose friends? Am I going to lose my job? How am I going to pay my bills? But yet you did it. and here you are with a big smile on your face.
Exactly. Yeah. Talking to amazing people like you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So no, it's awesome. I'm so grateful to have met you. And I don't know, just a wealth of information. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add? Oh, I was going to think, actually, you brought back an awesome example just because I'm obsessed with like fire, like bonfires. Like, so we have them kind of, you know, throughout the year often. And, you know, I like to stand around and flip the logs and do whatever, get into the coals. But it's interesting how you brought up sleeping beside the fire, because the next morning, always, I am like, sinuses are full, like I can feel it in my throat and the coughing. And it is just amazing to see, like you said, like when something enters your body, how hard the body is working to get that out, to cleanse you again, to get, you know, to work. And I noticed that definitely around fires, or if people haven't been around secondhand smoke in a while, but when that was a thing, like, just our bodies are just so amazing. And I loved how at the beginning, how you corrected me and you said, like, you don't heal people. And it's true, right? Like you help like guide them to a point where, you know, it is up to the individual. It's only we can heal ourselves, no one else, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's about taking back that responsibility and getting out of victim mode. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's anything you want to add. I know that was a lot. There's always so much I want to talk to you about, but
we can stop here. We can also do another. We can do another live on another date and see what flows that day.
Yeah, that's probably this is probably a good place to end off, because that was a lot of information. I know there was a lot of good comments. Some people were asking some really good books on what Paul was talking about. I've read it as well, and I love it. It's The Contagion Myth by Dr. Thomas Cowan. Pretty much all of his books, like Dr. Thomas Cowan is amazing. So search him out. Dr. Andrew Kaufman is another one. Another fabulous book is Virus Mania. Excellent. And there's a huge book. It's good just to like have as a reference, because it's like 800 pages, but it is like filled with like a ton of information. It's called What Really Makes Us Ill.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
That's
it's so big, but I like just to flip to it for certain things that I need, because like the resources are amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'll leave you guys with those books. And I don't know, anything you want to end off on, Paul? Anything you want to leave with people watching?
I'll just give one last tip on health. It's more mental, emotional, spiritual, and it might seem like a small thing, but just being alone every day is really essential. It's really important to have time to just be free and connect to your own self without responsibilities, without being on your phone, without, you know, like if you're a mother and you've got a couple kids and always having to, you know, there's responsibilities. There's all sorts of different responsibilities in life. So just to be alone for 20 minutes a day in a way that really feels good to you, like good to a person, I'm not speaking to you, just to, walk in nature, whatever it is really essential. This is time when you can hear messages from your soul. It's when you can reflect on the stresses in your life. It's if they're present. It's when you can enjoy yourself, just get some fresh air and nourishment and freedom. Freedom is one of the most important aspects of healing and maintaining health. And so just by walking alone, you're giving yourself a huge dose of freedom. So I would just suggest, if people don't have that as part of their lifestyle yet, try it out for like 7 days in a row. Like make a commitment to be alone and free for 20 minutes every day, first thing in the morning, 7 days straight, and see how that actually changes how you feel. We need energy to create change. We need energy to pursue goals and accomplish them. If you're tired and depleted, then it's hard to have motivation. It's hard to make changes. It's hard to do anything because what you really need is not to take action, but to rest. So when you walk alone each day, it really helps cultivate energy. Just doing breathing through your nose and being free, you'll actually start to raise your energy vibration. And then that'll help overflow into all the things that are so important for you to do to keep yourself healthy and to create the world we want to see together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So I hope that's helpful.
No, it's so helpful because I think that is so important because I know myself, that's what I've been experiencing, especially in this last 2 weeks, have been really intense with me and just go, go, go. And I'm feeling that now.
I bet
Yeah.
you give a lot. You have a big heart, so I wouldn't be surprised.
So I'm feeling the need for the recharge though, and taking that pause and slowing down and finding those minutes that are just for me. Because as you know, we know you can't. You know, the saying is you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So take
Beautiful.
care of yourselves. You know, keep your vibration high. And this is what I've been telling people, and you touched on it very subtly in there, is that we're at the rebirthing. So things are happening. There's the crumbling phase. We're going through the challenges of things falling apart and collapsing, and it is a bit painful, but keep your vibrations high because through that pain, we get to rebuild. And we're not going back to what was in this last 100 years because that wasn't sustainable. We're on this new path to create something amazing, something actually like healing and sustainable, and something, you know, where we're connected and just something beautiful. So that's why I'm smiling, because we're going through this pain, but we have the opportunity to create something amazing. So keep your vibrations high, everyone. Keep focusing on the positives, keep focusing on what you want to create. And like Paul mentioned, make sure you take time for just you. And that's something I need to keep reminding myself.
Thanks for that beautiful ending. That was really positive note.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for coming on. This is fun, and let's do this together. I like this.
Sounds good. Yes, would love to. Would love to.
All right.
Thanks for everyone listening and being part of the talk. Like we're just all in this together. So, like in the solution.
Like tagline though. We can't
in the
use
solution.
I always want to say that, like we're all in this together, but it's like no, that's theirs. We need something else.
Right. Yeah, we're in the health revolution together.
The health revolution. Yes. There we go. Yes. Okay. Take care, Paul.
The new awakening. You too, Chrissy.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Close.